Hi, everyone. Welcome to Forum with Anthony Fullard. My name is Randall Drain. And we're here to have a discussion about the West Powelton Development Company and its projects in the Philadelphia area. So, Anthony, I guess just to get started, since we're running just a couple minutes late, why don't you share a bit about yourself and why developing in Philadelphia became a passion of yours?
Uh, hey, Randall. Good to connect with you again. Why Philadelphia? Well, born and raised here in Philadelphia all my life. Raised my five daughters here, and uh, as I said, born and raised here, and have been here in the city of Philadelphia all of my life. Had formerly a few businesses here in Philadelphia in my young adult life, and started out in the construction industry as a union iron worker, probably about 30 plus years ago, and then was able to aspire to start my own steel company, and was one of the only Black African American steel erectors in the city of Philadelphia, pretty much in the tri-state area. Did a number of buildings constructed in the Philadelphia area, and then learned, I guess, through experience of of how to run businesses, and then also how not to run businesses,
Right.
and how not to make some mistakes that I made earlier on in my young entrepreneur life, and then was able to parlay that into working with the African American Chamber of Commerce, which I did about almost 10 years as the Economic Development Director in the city of Philadelphia, to help to ensure the African American small businesses and also African American businesses to be able to do business in the city of Philadelphia. Was very proud of that moment and that time of my life, and then was able to again get back into the construction industry, and begin to get into developing and being able to
Right.
impactfully change African American neighborhoods, and begin to build houses, not student housing. Is not my expertise, nor is multifamily my expertise, but my expertise is to build housing for homeowners in African American and brown neighborhoods.
That's interesting, and it's funny when we talked the other day. You talked a lot about housing access as a not only local issue, but one that affects societies all over the world, and how that's really um, formulated your strategy at West Powelton. Could you talk a little bit about that? I thought that was an interesting, perspective that you brought to the table.
Sure. I mean, housing is not just peculiar to the city of Philadelphia, not peculiar to the United States, but is something that is on a international platform to provide housing for families, for people that are looking to, be a homeowner. And that's something that has faced the world for many years. But I think that one of the issues, as you look in places like in Europe and Germany, and also in the United States, is how do we work to get people access to home ownership, and what
Mm.
and then what kind of role does the government play? What kind of role does the private sector play in
Hmm.
trying to help and to trying to provide quality housing, affordable housing, and also market rate housing? And so, if you look and read through a number of research that has been done, there's a lot of good and wealth and thought provoking information of how to handle that.
That makes sense. And the other interesting concept you brought up was this of organic development and being very intentional about not only your project and obviously how that pans out, but also the surrounding homeowners and businesses, yes, but also the homeowners. And if you could talk a little bit about, your attention to and track record with elevating the whole community with regard to home values. That'd be I think interesting for the audience.
Sure. It's really called you will find that in the mixed income housing. And that's where West Powelton, where we focus in on, is the mixed income housing, meaning the market rate and affordable housing. And we try to identify land within the city of Philadelphia, again, specifically in Black and brown neighborhoods, where we can get parcels from. It can only work if we can acquire 10 to 15, 20, 30 parcels of land. It doesn't have to be a whole city block, but it can be scattered sites as well. But it has to be within that area for it to really make sense. But in order to build market rate and also affordable housing, because the affordable housing in this equation, pretty much for a private developer that is using private dollars, would pretty much break even on his affordable housing development, but is able to absorb that cost into his market rate. Now, why would a developer want to do that? Because they want to be able to change the dynamic economically within that community, which will begin to impact other developers, other development, right, because of you are impacting such a large amount of housing at one time. And so what does that do for the surrounding community? Well, what that does for the surrounding community, organically, now you're bringing in home ownership. Right now, I'm on the cusp of starting a 19-house development in East Mount Airy. This is a peculiar project because you say, wow, where can you develop a consistent of single houses, 19 houses, because we was fortunate to be able to find land in East Mount Airy off of 122 East Horder Street. There was a block of land that sits right behind the whole community of homes. And so when you have that kind of close proximity, when you can bring a conversion of home ownership opportunities to other homeowners that want to buy houses that have the wherewithal to purchase market rate housing, and where you may have renters that may be renting as existing residents, and also residents that are long-term homeowners. Well, now you have a mix. You have a community mix that now can begin to know and learn and to live among each other, because everybody has a stake in this community. So then that gives an opportunity not for the government to mandate and to subsidize and to bring government philosophies, but organically for these homeowners and for these long-term renters to be able to organically live together and begin to benefit from each other's strength.
I think that's quite interesting. And I think the 122 order project's a very compelling one. And I'm a little biased, as I grew up in Mount Airy, so I know the site, and it was fun walking through that with you yesterday. to that point, and we talked about it a bit yesterday about kind of organic, call it synergies of these projects.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to the infrastructure benefits that came into play,
Absolutely.
From your project, and how, that ended up engaging the existing residents, and then that kind of, it created a bit of a catalyst that, sets the table for a successful project?
Yeah, great question, D. When I first was able to obtain and get site control of this particular site, we brought this site with zoning intact, meaning that, and there is actually a bill going through City Council right now about by right, building by right, where you don't have to go to the community. You don't have to go and present in front of the RCOs. And so I think that there's going to be a little shift within, again, the government. But I understand it, because you still want the community to be able to, just to know what is happening within the community. But to stay on point on your question, is that when we first brought this land, we had it by right. We had zoning. We had some of the preliminary plans that was already put into play. But our model and our commitment to our communities, again, we develop in Black and brown neighborhoods, people who look like us. I raised my daughters. I lived in this community for over 27, 28 years. So it is on my commitment as a developer, even though that I did not have to go and present before the community, but it is our obligation. It is our brand. It is our mission to still bring this development before the community, to still have them to help to guide us and to understand what their concerns, what their issues are, that we may have missed, or that we may need to be aware of. I believe as a developer, it is every developer's responsibility to have that kind of interaction within a community before any development goes on, so that we can at least try to get it as right as we possibly can. Then there should be other commitments from a developer when they are coming to build market rate or even affordable housing. Infrastructure, meaning the sidewalks, meaning the lighting, meaning the safety. Because if we are really listening to the signals that are happening within our city, we should know what is going on. We should know about the violence. We should know about the gun violence. We should know about all these other things that are affecting the city of Philadelphia as a whole, and should be about and concerns about every developer's project when they begin to start to try to develop in communities. And so that's our commitment. That's our brand. That's what we focus in on. And that's how we start every one of our developments. And also, don't want to forget, and we also sit down and we discuss our developments with the district council person as well.
That makes a lot of sense. And just on the market rate piece, you have an interesting kind of philosophy about it, and I respect the kind of conviction around a commitment to market rate and bringing market rate to more neighborhoods in Philadelphia. Again, because of that that kind of catalytic impact. Talk a little bit about, you said that 122 was a as of right development.
Was what? I'm sorry.
Was as of right. You were developing as of right.
By right, yes, correct.
Yeah, and by going market, that gives you a bit of autonomy, I believe. And if you could speak to a little bit how you approach, and you did already a little bit, but how you approach how not having to go through the zoning process and have outside forces influences you, gives you a bit more, autonomy over the projects, and also ability to meet the community's needs.
Yeah, I mean, that just adds more time when you got to go through zoning. If you have to deal with some variances that may impact your projects, where you have to get the sign off, you have to get the vote of communities. And so now you have to present into people and then play to people's community strengths, you know, for their approval of your project.
Right.
And so when you have by right, then you don't really have to play so much. I mean, you want to be committed, you want to listen, you want to be able to massage your project and to be sensitive to the aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhoods and all of that. But when you got to get variance, when you have to get approval from a RCO, then it's a little bit more challenging because because you just have some people, for whatever rhyme and reason, just do not want to like your project. They don't want to agree. As I just was listening in on Kyle and Brahim's, where they had to go from door to door on some of their projects, and it wasn't very nice. And that's where you will find a lot of times within communities, just because of misinformation. You always hear the key word of gentrifying our neighborhoods, and when you see development is bad, that they're going to take your property, taxes are going to go up, and these are not true statements. Gentrification is not something that just comes and destroys a community. You know what I mean? I don't look at it as a word of justification. I look at what we do, me, my daughter, and other investors that we come into these communities, is that we are looking to revitalize our neighborhood. I was happy to get this project because no one can say of what you're going to do in our neighborhood. Well, I live in this community. I have a house. I raised daughters here, and I want to see Black and brown neighborhoods benefit from the renaissance that is going to happen in the city of Philadelphia. But we should have a say. We should be involved. We should want to play a role into our neighborhoods getting better, our neighborhoods being able to come online with the city as a neighborhood that should be, considered and should be looking for infrastructure repairs, meaning sidewalks. Again, as I said, as far as better lighting, better safety, when you build in houses, how can we make it a more safe? Because what you hear of our long-term residents, meaning our seniors, that should benefit from a quality neighborhood at some point in their lifetime, and easy to sit on their porch in a safe way. Their kids can play outside without having to be concerned about their safety and all these things. All that comes not from the development, but it comes from the community. It comes from bringing in people that's going to have a stake in the community by buying a home there. And that means that they are there for the next 20 to 30 years. That's their investment. And we want to bring that kind of investment to our communities as well, because we see it happening into other communities that don't have the demographics like ours. Okay. Also with new development and home ownership and also market rate does not mean that it's just bringing in white people. Okay. That is far from the truth. When I did the development out in Osage and Pine, about 85% of them homeowners was African-American young professionals. And they bought those homes, and that was 36 homes. And that neighborhood was traumatized for over 30 years. And it had flatlined the values of those homes of other Black homeowners that lived in that community and that surrounding community that could not benefit from the largest investment that they made in their life. Now all of a sudden it's flatline. My value of my home has flatlined. It won't increase because the amount of abandonment of houses that are in there. The minute that we develop them houses, the minute that we begin to put home ownership back into that community, which was well deserved for a long time, and we did it with private dollars, is that those homes' values increase immediately. And now you go around that area and you see other development happening. You see other rehabs happening. Okay. And now you see a African-American predominant neighborhood, which what it was once before the move bombing. Okay. Now can come back and see this community resurrected again. And now there was a very good article in the Enquirer about this forum, and also 17 asset and the collective partnering relationship. And there were some numbers there, and it talked about of how the gap between net worth between whites and blacks, okay, and how huge that gap is between both races. Well, blacks people that buy home ownership, that is a way to begin to try to close that gap, okay, as your net wealth.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think what's interesting about what you're saying too is there's, if you look at the development as the result, and the developer is kind of managing all that it takes to get there. It's important from an impact standpoint, not just to look at the development as the end result, but who's in charge of that, who's involved in that process from the beginning, who leads it, who gets to make decisions. And then also, I think you've done a good job of demystifying a bit market rate. That we often think of these things as ors, but we can have market rate investments in these neighborhoods and in fact make more impact. And that's why it's important when we think of the collective and investable projects that we, approach these complex issues with different developers with different investment theses, expertises such as yourself, and really, have a healthy mixture of both property types and, like I said, market versus affordable, like you were saying earlier, that kind of organic diversity when it comes to the housing stock. And then the last thing I'll say, and I thought you hit on it well, is that it's not just about the project, right? It's about those people in the community's wealth, and how can we have, there's a trade-off, how can we grow wealth through, as you mentioned, probably the most impactful asset, which is home ownership, if we're depressing home values by only building one type of housing stock. So I think what's great about the collective and in this partnership, working with you, and I really got the sense yesterday, it's like there's a next level thought to and a kind of a systemic thought to how to approach these problems and really solve them project by project. And look, you've got the credibility, you said in the beginning, as a Philly native, and like your projects, your career is kind of ground up, right? You learned how to build, which is the most essential. I mean, that's the most essential skill out of all of this. It starts with you. Putting the foundations together, the joists together, the bricks, the whatever, and the infrastructure. We're here to help you figure out capital for that. But really, what I'm impressed by is just how you started from a position of rolling up your sleeves and understanding the process of building, and then also understanding these communities. So, it's not a surprise that the West Powelton develops have been as successful as they are. So I guess with that, with the time we have left, I'd pose another question to you, which is, what is it? How can the collective be helpful? And you can answer that however you want, whether that's from a financial standpoint. I know developers always need money yesterday. I get that, but you could also answer it from, some of the non-financial resources that your projects could benefit from.
Of course, you said the magic word, always looking for financing for us.
Right. And you told me, by the way, you said you're softening up. You said they've got to be big land parcels. So that to me, that's a big check. So
Yeah.
I got it. I got the subtle message there, but
Well, you know what?
so yeah.
Ironically, it doesn't have to necessarily be a big check, because if you're developing correctly on a larger parcel of land, and this is my pitch to the developers, is that, you know what I mean? If we're developing correctly, and if we're building a product that people want to buy, which means a quality product, nice finishes. And also, let me just also input that when you go by our projects that are connected with affordability houses and market rate, you will not be able to tell the market rate from the from the affordable house from the exterior. You know what I mean? We want,
Yep.
Again, organically, that this is how you start that process. You know what I mean? And where the mixed income housing, that's one of the platforms that mixed income housing looks for, is that where that you're building the affordable, not so differently from market rate.
That makes sense.
And then also what market rate does to a affordable house, it helps it increase in value over a period of time. So because it's affordable at the beginning, it doesn't remain affordable as time go on. Now,
that makes sense. I know I'm sorry to cut you off. I know we got to wrap up soon. So I'm going to allow you, I'll give you one more chance. What besides the money can we bring to you, or just bring the money?
Well, I mean, I don't know if if it's a dollar value ask. I mean, right now my project that I'm doing, is the construction budget is about $5 to $6 million. Do I need $6 million? No, because if I'm doing it right, the money will recycle through the construction of the projects, and all of the projects should be able to be constructed in that manner.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to learning more about your projects. We got to wrap up. We're running a tight ship here. I'm sure the audience appreciated hearing your passion and getting a better. You're welcome. Getting a better sense of the deals.
Appreciate you.
Much more to do, and look forward to working with you, Anthony.
Me likewise.